Welcome to the Preserving Family Podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to equip you to gain insight, information, and inspiration to help you protect, teach, and guide your family during these turbulent times. Our goal is to provide tools and resources to help you strengthen and preserve your own marriages and families. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Mark and Janie Ogletree.
Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are joining us today on Preserving Families. We have had a crazy summer, so thank you all for being patient with us. We've had to replay a couple oldies and goodies and things like that and kind of punt this summer because we've been so crazy busy, but...
Well, I'm sure everyone else has too, right? So hopefully you haven't noticed too much because you've been busy, right?
Exactly. We just got back from our family reunion at Bear Lake, and we, for the first time in a long time, we had all of our family. We had all of 8 children and their spouses and all of our grandchildren in one place for a moment, and it was awesome. It was a dream come true for us because years ago, as we were first married and thinking about our future family and what it would be and how they would turn out, I think it was an answer to our dream, right? That we had many years ago.
Yeah, I think so.
And just so joyful, just so wonderful watching them all play together, interact, watching the cousins play. It was just a little piece of heaven on earth for us. And
that doesn't mean it wasn't without a few little glitches along the way, right?
We're all human, right? We all have glitches and arguments and things like that come up, but it's okay. It was wonderful just to have everybody together. And as we're kind of talking about that was a dream come true for us, that's kind of a lead in to our topic today.
Maybe I should tell them that part of your dream, Janie, is that the last family photo that we had was probably about 5 years ago, right? When one of our daughters got married. And just with our own children's busy schedules and busy lives, it's been hard to pull, and because a lot of them live in different parts of the country, it's been hard to pull everyone together. And that was your dream. You just said you would just say, all I want is a picture of our whole family, right?
I did. That was my dream this year. Finally get a picture with every person in it. And people had to come and go, and we were on different schedules. We weren't all there all together for the entire time. But I think we had about 12 hours where we were all there. We were able to grab a picture, get some family pictures. So hopefully as soon as those are edited and we can get those up on our wall. And yeah, that was my dream come true.
I'm so glad that it did. So,
but it's already out of date because we have 2 new babies coming at the end of the year. So, but we'll take what we can get, right?
Yeah, we will for sure. So this is the topic today that we want to discuss, and that is that do you as a couple have goals and dreams in your life? And when was the last time that you talked about some of those goals and dreams? I'm sure for most couples before you marry, you talk about that a lot, right, Janie? I mean, I remember when we were engaged and even newly married, we talked about the kind of family we wanted to have, how many children, how we would raise them. That was part of the dream. The other part was where we would live and what we would do professionally and where we would raise our family. That was all part of it. And then as you get more into it, those goals and dreams continue as you learn more and hope for the very best, for your family. So here's one of the things I've noticed, and maybe Janie, even for us, that once you get into life, once you get into your family, and you get really busy with work, and in our case with church, and in the case of a lot of other people, and your children's activities, and now even grandchildren's activities on some occasions, but those dreams you kind of forget about sometimes. It's easy to kind of forget about how all this started. Yet it's so important to dream. It's so important to have things to look forward to. That's one of the things Elder Holland said once in an address he gave to all the seminary and institute personnel. But he told all the men in the audience who were there with their wives that night to always make sure that they and their wives had something significant to look forward to. So the question is as couples, do we have goals and do we have dreams? And I know that for me, one of the things I do notice in my counseling practice is as we kind of talk about goals and dreams with couples, that very few couples have goals and dreams regarding themselves or their relationship, I should say. But a lot of the goals, if there are some in dreams, really center around financial dreams. They center around homes and travel and accomplishments like that. But I don't see a lot that have goals and dreams for themselves just as a couple. And that's so crucial. I love in the Old Testament where it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And definitely where there is no vision or goals or dreams in a marriage, then the marriage can flounder and it can wane to some degree. So let's talk about how goals and dreams in a marriage can be really inspirational and really motivational and can help a marriage be strong.
So, Mark, as you're talking about goals and dreams, to me, those are two different words. So define, what's the difference between a goal and a dream?
I mean, my first response is, I don't know. But my second response is, if I did know, here's what I think. No, I think a dream, to me, is the big picture. You know, the dream is, this is where we want to live one day, or this is the kind of family we want to raise, or this is where we hope to travel. In my mind, the goal is the specific part of that can get us there, right? Or in other words, if we want to really go to Hawaii for 2 weeks on a cruise, then part of the goal is going to be, how are we going to get there? How do we afford that? How do we set aside money to do that? How do we
set aside time for that?
Yeah, gear ourselves for that. And then all the little intricate details that you would probably have to do to get us there in terms of planning and everything else. Or if we wanted to have a home of a certain kind or a cabin in the mountains somewhere. Okay, that's the dream. But the goal is the little tiny chunks that have to be accomplished to get us there. Now I'm just telling you what I think.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So let me share this with you. This was a 2021 study in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships. And their finding was that couples who pursue shared goals report higher relationship satisfaction, more frequent intimacy, and better communication. Another study by the Gottman Institute, we love John Gottman, he showed that couples who plan together and have shared hopes for the future are more likely to stay together in the long term. So a couple of years ago, I read this book, and I would recommend it to anyone. It's by Les and Leslie Perrott. If you can imagine a couple named Les and Leslie marrying each other, and they're both like psychologists, marriage and family therapists, professors together. And they actually are wonderful Christian people who put out a lot of great material. But their book was called Making Happy. And it's a book that, once again, we'd recommend to all of you. And in one of the chapters in that book, they talk about dreams and how important dreams are for couples. And I think in that chapter, Janie, if I remember right, they tell the great story from a movie called Up, right?
Yes. For those of you who haven't seen it or have seen it, I think it's a Disney Pixar movie, and it is the cutest movie about this couple. And it starts off with this 78-year-old balloon salesman, Carl Fredrickson. And it's the sweetest story, and it kind of flashes back to he and his wife in the beginning of their life together. And it's just so moving. Honestly, it's my favorite part of the whole movie.
Right. Is that little montage, right?
Yes.
Where there's no words, right?
They put it, this little vignette starts with a glimpse of Carl and Ellie's wedding day. And as they move into their first home and their first jobs, and he's selling balloons and she's a zookeeper, and it just shows these cute little, and this is a cartoon for anyone who hasn't seen it. But if you haven't seen this movie, it's worth seeing. It's really cute. At least the first 20 minutes. I don't know. But
right.
It has them racing up the hill together and stargazing and watching clouds. And it's just this idyllic, beautiful marriage. They're painting their nursery together. And it's just a beautiful snapshot of young love. And they're just the cutest.
They have their whole life ahead of them, right?
Right. And I'm gonna read the rest from this book as they kind of talk about it, because they just word it so beautifully. But it said, but this isn't an ideal this isn't an idyllic life. The scene shifts to Carl and Ellie in a hospital room with prenatal diagrams on the wall. A doctor is talking and gesturing. Ellie is weeping into her hands. Next, Carl comforts his wife by reminding her of an old dream that they shared when they were children, traveling to a place called Paradise Falls together. Rejuvenated, Ellie creates a dream jar labeled Paradise Falls, and into the jar goes all of the young couple's spare money. Again, however life happens. First their car pops a tire, then Carl visits the hospital, then a tree falls and damages the roof of their home. Each of these inconveniences necessitates that the dream jar be smashed and the money spent. Soon Carl and Ellie have gray in their hair, and in a flash they become elderly. Near the end of the vignette, Carl remembers their dream of visiting Paradise Falls, and he purchases 2 tickets from a travel agency, but Ellie collapses on their way back up the grassy hill of their youth. We see her in a hospital bed with Carl holding her hand and kissing her forehead, and then we see Carl sitting alone at the front of the church, him holding a solitary balloon in his hand. As the vignette closes, we clearly see that Carl and Ellie loved each other deeply. Their relationship was fun, tragic, tender, and filled with hope. They had a dream. And chances are you do too. Every newlywed couple begins their relationship with dreams. Unfortunately, the strum and the strain of life has a way of getting in front of our dreams, and our proverbial dream jar is at risk of getting smashed. We've got to tend to our dreams before they're too late, and that's exactly what they talk about in this book, which is, again, why we recommend this book.
Right.
But it's just such a cute little snapshot of this couple, and the movie goes on to show that even though his wife passed away, he pursues this dream to fulfill her dream so that, and at the end it's, like, I did it, Ellie, it's so cute. But I know, Mark, you've referred to your favorite movie, It's a Wonderful Life. And it kind of reminds me of that for those of you that have seen It's a Wonderful Life. And again, if you haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, you have to see It's a Wonderful Life.
You can even watch it even if it's not Christmas time, right?
Yeah. But his dream is to travel, to get out of his town and to travel the world. And his whole life is spent trying to do that.
To get there, yeah.
To get there. Anyway, better things happen, right? But his dream jar kept getting smashed.
But I
right?
think Mary's dreams do happen, right? Mary's dreaming of making that house into a home and all those other things, and I think it's really cool. But I don't know. Going back to the movie Up, some would say that's tragic, right? That it just didn't end the way that it was supposed to, or whatever. But in my mind, maybe one of the things that gave them the strength in their marriage relationship, once again, I know it's a cartoon, but was the fact that they had these goals and dreams together. So let me read to you what the Perot say in the book that we're quoting from, Making Happy. They said, marriage is the one place where we have the potential to create a world to our own liking. Why? Because we determine our dreams. It's up to us to craft a vision for what is possible in our home and relationship. And that's exactly what a dream is. A vision of the imagination that is strongly desired and hoped for. A dream entails a goal for a purpose that gets us to a place we long to be, a place where we will be happier. So we know that dreams take optimism, they take work, but they also keep us going, right, Janie? I mean, I think we all could say that in our lives, where when we're down, when we're in places of sadness or despair, that sometimes it's those dreams that keep us going. Elder Holland talked about that years ago in a message he gave, that what kept the early church members going, what kept those saints going when there was so few of them and so much opposition. And he talked about the dreams that they had of what the church would become one day. It's actually a really cool thought. But I do believe that the dreams in our life can keep us going.
And Mark, I also think that dreams in a marriage help keep a marriage alive and going. I think if we don't have dreams together, if we don't have those things that we are both focusing on, I think it's very easy for partners to drift kind of opposite ways, or to just, you get caught up in your thing, he gets caught up in his life. And so I think you really do have to have kind of those big goals out there that you're both trying to meet, or that you're excited for, or hopeful for, or think could possibly happen one day.
Yeah, you're yoked together and you're working together on a common goal. You know, Janie, I do think a lot of people just kind of exist. And I still remember growing up in a neighborhood in Texas many, many years ago, and one of the neighbors, they got divorced. And this was before people did that, right? This was the 1960s, late 1960s, early 70s, but there was a couple in the neighborhood who were getting divorced, and I think they were in their 50s or so. And I remember asking my mom, why'd this couple get divorced? And she said, well, the wife had told her that the husband was just boring, that they just never were going anywhere. They never did anything. They weren't progressing. He was just very content to kind of sit in a chair and watch the world go by, you know. And I'm not saying that's a good reason for divorce, but I'm thinking of that now, something that I remember hearing 40 or 50 years ago as a kid, and thinking, yeah, couples need to grow. They need to progress. So now on the other side of that, we know that having dreams can strengthen a marriage. In fact, I'm just going to quote from the Perrots for a minute, where they say in their book that dreaming brings together two super boosters of happiness. And the ones that they identify are optimism and control. And here's what they say about both of those. First, optimism. That optimistic people have been shown to achieve more, build stronger relationships, and have better health. Optimists are also superior at deflecting depression and bouncing back from hardship. So, once again, dreams help us to be optimistic. Being optimistic helps us to dream. Their second factor is control. Now, this is really interesting. Dreaming a dream also involves personal control, is what they say. Happy people believe that they have a lot to say about their destiny. They quote George Bernard Shaw, who said, hell is to drift and heaven is to steer. And those that drift feel helpless, as if nothing they choose to do affects what happens to them. That everything is up to just luck or fate. But by contrast, people who dream a dream and who see a vision for what their life can be, they take action to make it so. I love this. Dreaming galvanizes action to make things better. And then they give us a little data here. 15% of the population who feel the most control over their lives have strong feelings of happiness in their lives. And I know that from a gospel setting, we would say, hey, we are here on this earth, quoting 2 Nephi, to act and not be acted upon. So let's take control of our lives and steer the boat, and let's try to get to where we want to go and accomplish some of these goals and dreams. Janie, what comes to mind is just the many people that we know, even in our own personal lives, who have worked hard, who have had dreams and goals, and they've gotten there, right? You know, we know people that have said from the day that they were married that they were going to go on a mission together, and now they're having that opportunity. They've set the goals of, you know, the financial goals, and they've got their affairs in order so that they could go on a mission. You know, we know a lot of people who have had a dream like that.
Right. Well, I just think of you from the time that we were first married. You always wanted to teach at a university, and you wanted to be a marriage and family therapist and get your PhD, and that was always a goal. And back then it seemed so overwhelming and daunting, right? And the more kids we had,
and impossible, yeah.
Yeah, and you worked for the church, so financially it seemed overwhelming and daunting, but somehow the Lord blessed us. Somehow the pieces aligned, everything, it worked out. And I think that's just so important that these dreams and goals don't happen overnight. They don't happen quickly. They don't happen easily. A lot of times it requires a lot of work, effort, sacrifice, planning, you know, giving up other dreams maybe to make certain dreams happen.
Yeah.
And so that took us, 13, 15 years?
I think the first 15 years of our marriage, I was in school. Yeah. And I remember writing you once, because we started all this before the internet, right? And I remember writing you a letter as I was at Northern Arizona University one summer, finishing my master's degree in counseling, and I had to go away for the summer. But I remember writing you a letter and saying, just think, it's going to be okay. It's going to be awesome. We're going to finish this, and then life will be just great. You know, we're going to do well. It's going to all fall into place. But here you were back home in Mesa, Arizona, with 5 of our children under the age of 5, and it wasn't easy for you either, right? And so, here I was sleeping in a tent in someone's backyard, you know, because it was the cheapest way to do that. But But we knew that if we could work and get that doctorate degree, that it would open doors. And guess what? It has. I look at all the doors that has opened for us and opportunities that we never actually dreamed of that have happened for us because of that. And it took a while, right?
Yeah. The example of a young couple that we know that had tons of student debt to pay off. But they just got to work, they buckled down, they worked as a team, they sacrificed, they took odd jobs, and they got it paid off in 5 years.
Yeah.
And now they're good to go. But again, sometimes these dreams take a lot of sacrifice and effort and work.
Yeah.
It's not all about going to Hawaii and building a cabin. Sometimes it's goals, just to get your life in order so that then things can go forward.
Yeah, so other things can open up. We have a daughter who, from the time she was probably 10 or 12, dreamed of having this ranch that she would raise her family on, and she would have 12 strapping sons that would be bucking hay all day. And we drive up to her home now. That's a beautiful home on 10 acres, and they've got cows out in the front yard and
chickens and cats and dogs, and she's living the dream, right?
They've got their 4 children. They don't have 12 strapping sons yet, but they've got their 4. They have 2 boys and 2 girls, but every time I see her, I always remind her that, Kinsey, look what's going on here. This is what you've dreamed about since you were a kid, and so dreams can come true, right? They certainly can.
Right. And I love to look at some of our kids too, who have started businesses, who have gone through school on nothing, who have just had these great dreams and accomplished them. And I guess I'm so proud of these kids and anyone who sets a goal, has a dream, and can work hard, make the effort. And I'm not going to take the Lord out of it too, because I think the Lord really blesses us when we have righteous desires and righteous dreams. I really do think that he opens doors and opens the way for us to accomplish them. I don't think these things just magically happen. I think he really does bless us and give us opportunities to see our goals fulfilled. I know our good friend Randall Wright, which we quote a lot,
right?
But he's a big goal guy. He talks about goals and dreams all the time, and he said if you write them down, they happen. He said it's miraculous how over and over again he's seen in his life. If he writes them down, puts them on a mirror, concentrates on them, somehow the Lord opens doors for him to accomplish these goals and dreams. And I know that can happen in our lives also.
And part of it is to tie into our theology, that we believe in eternal progression. And a lot of times when you say eternal progression, people kind of mistakenly believe that means, on the other side, after we die, we're going to keep progressing, and that's part of it. But eternal progression is going on right now in this life, right? Eternal is God's name. Eternal is the type of progression that our Heavenly Father understands and wants for us. And so to progress and to grow and to become better and improve in this life is really one of the main purposes of why we're here. Janie, back to Randall's story, he kind of expounded on that one of his books where in an organizational behavior class at BYU, they had to write down their life's goals and dreams for this class. And they did it, and he did it. And he wrote them all on a big kind of, remember those big index cards, not 3x5, but the bigger ones, kind of almost like a cue card of some kind, but he typed them up, and he would review those often, and then he kind of forgot about it, and then he moved, and then he couldn't find the card for a while. But one day, and maybe it was 10 years after he had graduated from BYU, he found that card. His mom was cleaning out a closet in their home, and there it was. And he read that list of goals, and now here he was 10 years out from when he had set those as a BYU student. And he said, a tingle went up my spine. He said, I realized every goal and every dream that I had listed on that card had happened, And so, in his point was, even if we don't review them often, but if just the fact that he wrote them down and reviewed them for a while, they were a part of him. Those goals were a part of him. And so he worked hard in his life to accomplish those.
So I think goals, besides just accomplishing these great things in our life, they really serve a purpose to bind us together as couples. And one of them is it fosters teamwork and unity, like the whole attitude of, okay, we're in this together,
yes.
Which is very building and bonding in a marriage.
Yeah.
Another thing is that it provides us direction. Like, where are we heading? Like, what are we doing? We're not just eking it out. We're not just being acted upon.
We're not just existing.
Yeah.
We're going somewhere. We're trying to do something here with our marriage.
So I love that. Another thing that it does is it deepens our emotional intimacy so that I know your heart, you know mine. We have this kind of working thing that we know, what each of us desires and where we're going. And I think that really helps to strengthen a marriage. Goals and dreams help couples endure trials because that we have a vision for the future when things go wrong, when we have to smash that Paradise Falls jar because something bad happens and we have to start over. That we can get through anything together because we know kind of where we're going and we have this dream.
Right.
So I think that's powerful. And then Earl Nightingale said, people with goals succeed because they know where they are going. And I love that.
It provides great those goals and dreams provide great direction for us.
So Mark, in this book, Making Happy, they give a little quiz on where you're kind of at with your dream quotient, they call it. So we thought we'd kind of pass it on.
It's probably a good quiz for us to take too, right?
Right.
So.
And it's just kind of true or false. So as we read through these, maybe in your head think true or false. And the higher the number, the more likely we are good at dreaming. And the lower is probably we need to work on, getting with our spouse and creating some more dreams and goals. But we just thought it'd be fun to kind of go through these questions really quick.
Yeah.
The first one is true or false. We have talked at length about our dreams for our relationship and our life together. I can recall where we were and much of what we said. So okay. True or false.
By the way, we're not going to answer. We don't
want to incriminate ourselves. True or false. We've talked about our dreams together, if only for a moment in the past month. Interesting. True or false. We have written down our dreams and know where to find them.
These are good questions.
True or false? We have a bucket list of cool things we'd like to do at some point in our lives. That's just fun, huh?
Yeah.
True or false? We have broken our most important dreams into a set of achievable goals. True or false?
So there's kind of your relationship between dreams and goals right there, right? That the dream is made up of small goals, right, to get there.
Yeah. True or false? I'm optimistic about achieving our dreams together. There's their optimism part of it too. Because I know sometimes the dreams sometimes that we have seem so unreachable that I'm like, it's never gonna happen. So take that off my list. Hey. Where you are very optimistic. You're like, no, we're doing that.
We're just gonna make that happen. Yeah.
True or false? Some of our dreams may not be what people would call fun, but they are meaningful to us. It's true. That's really good.
Hey,
every couple's so different.
Having a cabin full of 40 or 50 grandkids and 8 children and their spouses, we'll take that any day.
Oh, that's true. Might not be fun. Or serving a mission might not be fun for other people, but maybe for certain couples that is fun. Anyway,
right.
We're all so different. True or false? I can easily picture our marriage 25 years from now, and I know what I'd like it to be like. Interesting. True or false? I feel like, for the most part, we are in charge of the direction our life is taking. And then the last one, true or false? Thinking about our future together is energizing to me.
I'll say true on that for sure. I love that.
So that's kind of cool. So if we've had mostly truths, then we're doing probably a pretty good job. If there maybe a lot of falses, maybe we need to up our dreaming and our goal setting.
You know, Janie, this reminds me of an experience that I would call both good and bad for us. But it was probably 10 years ago or so, and it was just one of those evenings where we went on a date together. And I don't even know if you remember this, but we went to the Provo Temple Grounds. And I said to you, we found a secluded place on a Friday night, and it was kind of at dusk. And I said, okay, what do you want to do for the next 10 years? And we sat there and we talked about it. And it was really cool, the things we talked about. That was the good part. The bad part is I don't think we wrote one of those things down that we talked about that night. And I think we probably can confess to everyone that we need to recreate that. But I remember how inspiring that was to think, okay, we're going somewhere. We have things to do, and let's get it done, So I think the counsel I would give to everyone who's listening is, okay, do better than us. Do that more often than once every decade,
And I know we talked about
but write it down.
We need a vision board. Like, you know how every January we do like a personal vision board, but you and I make one.
What about as a couple, right?
Right, you and I as a couple make one and we can hang it in our closet or something where we can both see it.
Right. So let's talk about what we'll call dream killers. It sounds so morbid to talk about, okay, here's what often kills dreams. But these are 7 common dream killers, and I think we've experienced a lot of these. But the first one is just busyness. And number 1 is busyness. When couples are just trying to survive the week, how do they plan for the future, right? We have so much going on with work and children and errands and church responsibilities. We're in survival mode. One couple with 4 children admitted that they hadn't talked about their personal or couple goals in years. One couple described their marriage as running an air traffic control tower. And I think we can kind of relate to that, right?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah. I love this quote from Socrates. He said, "Beware of the barrenness of a busy life," but just being over busy, being so busy that we don't have time to look up and think about, hey, what's all this for anyway? Like, what are we doing all this for? I think that's for sure, Janie. We can put a check next to that box.
We talk about that every day.
Yeah.
Another one is fear of failure, which I kind of mentioned a minute ago.
Right.
What if we don't succeed? What if we dream big and it doesn't happen, or it falls apart, or like from Up, our spouse maybe passes away or something happens? Some couples stop dreaming because of past disappointment or fear of looking foolish. But faith and fear can't coexist. We need to have faith. We need to be optimistic, like you were saying. Doubt not, fear not. We need to go forward with confidence. And maybe if one dream falls apart, then maybe other doors open for other dreams. It's okay, but we still need to dream, go forward, have faith, and just keep progressing like you talked about.
Right. Number 3 would be financial stress, which once again, I think we can relate to that too. We have a dream to go to Disney World or take our family on a cruise, or we have dreams to travel or whatever those may be, but they all cost, right? And sometimes some of us, I'll put myself in that category, can become overwhelmed at how much that could cost, right? But I love this. Dreaming doesn't always require money. You can dream of becoming better parents, starting a couples group of some kind, building stronger testimonies, or whatever it has to do, anything gospel related, but we can also save. I know, Janie, for years you would tell me that I want to travel, I want to go places, I want to see the world. And in my mind at the time, I was like, how do we ever do that? We were just so bogged down with the realities of life, with children on missions, children in college, children in braces. I just couldn't see past that. But now we've reached a point where some of those dreams are happening, and that's cool. So we would tell younger couples, hang in there. It gets better, right?
Yes, it does. Another dream killer would be a lack of communication. Maybe couples say that we just don't talk about these things anymore, again, because life is so busy and so crazy. And when couples stop talking meaningful, then dreams really do fade and get static, and we kind of start going down our own paths, I think. John Gottman from the Gottman Institute says that couples who engage in regular, deep conversation report 80% higher relationship satisfaction. So, like you just said, how we had gone to the temple a few years ago and talked about what do we want to do the next 10 years, which again, we need to redo that.
Yeah, we need to write it down this time, right?
But that's just a good thing to do. Go on a date and maybe even say, what are we going to do the next few months? What are we going to do the next year? Or just
right.
Maybe get the 1 year, 5 year, 10-year goals thing going.
Mm-hmm. Another dream killer is unresolved conflict. And this is easy to understand, right? Like if we're mad at each other, if we don't like each other that much, then of course we don't want to do anything with each other, right? And so if you have a lot of resentment, if there needs to be a lot of a healthy dose of forgiveness in your relationship, if you need to resolve some problems, even maybe go to counseling to get some help, but resolve the conflict, because yes, if there is conflict in a marriage, the dreaming gets killed quickly.
Mm-hmm. The next dream killer is comparison and discouragement. And maybe we see other couples that are further ahead in life, or they're doing things that we have dreamed about, or have things that we've always wanted. And And it can really get discouraging, but that's called coveting, and we shouldn't be doing that, right? And again, it's like we look around and we see everybody else's highlight reels,
Right.
but maybe in our home we have things that they wish that they had, or we have a relationship, that they wish that they had. You never know what's going on in people's lives, so we really shouldn't compare or get discouraged because other people are succeeding when maybe we feel like we're failing or haven't reached our goals yet. But we just need to stay in our own lane, stay on our own path, work on our own goals, and because I think that could be a huge dream killer if we really looked around and compared ourselves to other people.
What other people are doing, yeah, for sure. And then the last one is just this idea of just lack or vision of vision, or just a lack of hope. That this is just how it is. This is just, nothing's ever going to change. That's kind of this hopeless, victimized kind of feeling. And so we've got to overcome discouragement and understand that miracles can happen, that we can believe, and that dreams do come true,
Yeah, and the Lord is on our side. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to progress. He wants us to have joy and find joy, and He's there in our corner helping us.
Yeah. I remember, Janie, one time I was with my kids, with our children, years ago, watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Obviously a movie I'd seen as an elementary school kid myself, but I never forgot that line in the movie when I think one of the kids complains about something. I don't remember the exact context of it, but then Willy Wonka says that we are the music makers and we are the dreamers of dreams. And I think that's something that every couple should be able to say, right? That we are the dreamers of dreams. I'll just share with you another piece of data here. Tom Lee was one of my professors at Utah State University when I was in graduate school. Wonderful man. He just completed a survey of 1,400 married people. And one of those findings was that couples who regularly discuss their long-range plans are more likely to stay happily married. He even said this, that if you have a long-term view, you realize that the daily ups and downs don't mean that much. And talking about your shared future communicates, I plan on being there. In other words, I'm not going anywhere. We're here. We're going to make it happen. There are many good times yet to come. Dreaming a dream together doesn't just elevate happiness when you talk about it. Research reveals that simply being close to your spouse can cause you to be more optimistic in your outlook and more hopeful and less intimidated by challenges.
I also remember from the book that there was a series of studies carried out by Simone Chenal from the University of Plymouth. People were taken to the bottom of a hill and asked to estimate how steep it was, and therefore how difficult it would be to climb. When they were accompanied by a spouse or a friend, their estimates were about 15% lower than when they were on their own. And even just thinking about a spouse when looking at the hill made it seem far more surmountable.
Yeah. So in other words, a 15% reduction in how difficult that would be if you're with someone. I love that.
So as we wrap up here, we just have a couple points here on how to dream together. We kind of talked most about these, but we'll just go over them a little bit really quickly. But the first one, have regular dream dates. Once a month, once a year, whatever
Every
that
quarter,
looks like.
whatever that looks like.
Whatever that looks like. But have dream dates where you go to dinner or go take a walk or go sit at a park and talk about our short-term goals, our long-term goals, what we want our future to look like, what we want retirement to look like, where we're going to travel, what we're going to do, what we want to... Anyway, I think that would be fun.
I think that's great. And hey, some of those dream dates can be overnighters. They could be a cruise. It could be anything, right? So number 2, just set spiritual, financial, parenting, and travel goals. Or in other words, those little incremental goals is what's going to get us to the dream. So what do we need to do to get there? Right? That's kind of the point for number 2.
The next one is let's create a vision board or have a bucket list or our dream journal or a poster on the wall with cut out pictures so we can visualize. I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
So when we do this, which we are going to do.
That's right.
I'd love to get a poster board and, have the picture of different things that we're trying to accomplish or the things that we have on our dream list.
And this could be, like you said, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever, but these are our dreams, and don't be shy, right? I know, Janie, one of the dreams you had with us was you wanted to go to Europe and have all these cool things, and I thought, oh yeah, right. And the next thing you know, we had an opportunity to lead a tour over there, and next thing you know, you're floating in a boat across the Mediterranean, right?
And you loved it just as much as I did, right?
Yeah.
I took you kicking and screaming, and you loved it.
Yeah. And then maybe the last one is just to pray together about our dreams and goals. Once again, our Father in heaven wants us to be happy. He wants us to be successful, and he'll help us to accomplish those, especially if they're righteous. So when it comes today to let's do something, I think that would be a great invitation to give to all of us, and Janie and I are taking it upon ourselves as well. And that's to create a bucket list or goals or dreams, whatever fits you at this time. But make a list, brainstorm, and come up with some awesome ideas of the things that you want to accomplish and achieve and experience in this next part of your life. And there's no limit to that kind of dreaming. So we would invite all of you to do that.
Yeah, and then I just think in closing too is we need to celebrate when we do accomplish these goals, when we do achieve these dreams, celebrate them and make new ones.
Right. We don't have to just run out. We can keep going, right?
And again, life doesn't always work out. Things don't always work out the way they do, but then that's how when we adjust our goals, maybe we can modify them. But I think as long as we're moving forward on the right path, I think the Lord's going to bless us and take care of us. And
I believe that
cheer
too.
Us on.
I think he will. Well, everyone, thank you so much for being with us today. We would encourage you to share this podcast with anyone who could benefit by it. We look forward to being with you next time. Until then, have a great week.